not unscheduled, you should select the one that you scheduled. That's the issue I make. I made this mistake so many times too.
I thought that I was like that. I always think that I did that. Okay, now it's good. Now it's good. And now I lost something else. Okay, what's happening? Hey, what's up? It's John from Coding Addict, and welcome to another Web Dev Power Hour live stream. And as always, I'm joined by one and only Mr. Paul Bratlovsky, the mastermind behind, I wanted to say Strappy.
Exactly.
The mastermind behind YouTube channel and developer advocate for Strappy. Again, Paul's channel is Coding After 30. How are you, Paul?
I'm pretty good.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How's things with you?
Excellent. We had some guests in town last week.
Nice.
That's why I was kind of late, and I was just relying on Paul. But no. We had some guests, so we basically were showing around the Florida and everything, and it's funny. It's colder here, which is just like it reminds me of Chicago a little bit but it's like literally for one day and then it's gonna be warm. But overall we're doing really well. Everything is awesome. I was following you on Twitter, and then you did a remix conference.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
I think your second name soon is gonna be Paul Bratlovsky remix or remix.
Yeah, Paul remix, but
Paul remix Bratlovsky.
Paul Strappy remix, whatever the last name was, nobody cares anymore because that's all he does now. That's gonna be like my full last name.
You're gonna be Paulie B. Paulie remix B.
Yeah, the joke is, it's like I talk so much about like remix now that the joke is like maybe remix is going to hire me. I'm pretty happy like with Strappy. You don't want to continue doing that, but it's funny. The craziest thing is for me is literally like at some point I started my YouTube channel and I'm some random dude that doesn't even have a job yet, and over like this long journey, like I met you, like I got hired, like I got all this other stuff, and now I'm literally MC at a conference that was like really well and professionally ran, and it was like pretty awesome. You know what I mean? It was just amazing. And the whole idea of like making sure people get out and code in public, like get involved in the community, that's literally how like I got that opportunity. So I could like trace exactly what I did to get to someone being like, hey, you should be a MC on Remix Conf. And now like what like I double down on, it's always about who you know, getting out there, making connections, building a network, because that's exactly how I landed this opportunity.
How many speakers were there?
There was 2 tracks, and I think on our track it was like 5 speakers. It was pretty cool.
Did you play any of your music?
No, my music, no.
By the way, if you want to check out Paul's music, go to his Twitter. I don't know the handle, but you can always find it. You can always
leave
it.
Yeah, once in a while I'll make some like beats on the weekend, which is, I'm not like a professional musician, but I just like to do it for fun, but it's always like interesting.
Did you do any of the cool stuff like yo tonight the next one up?
You know what, like the coolest thing is it's like I kept it professional, you know? not like I do it on this channel or my channel during live streams. So I was like, I surprised myself. But no, the part of the professionalism was, to be honest, the event was sponsored by and created by Git Nation. And they did such an amazing job organizing it. And I remember when first meeting with them, kind of planning the event, it was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Like, this is what you're going to talk about. These are your spots. It was just one call and that's it. And I was like, wait, we don't have to rehearse more or, you know, get the ropes. They're like, no, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. And then literally the day of the event, we met 1 hour earlier and just rehearsed. And the reason why I'm saying this is like, they were so professional at setting everything up, thinking of everything, that we didn't have to talk more than we did. Like literally all we needed is that one time, say hello, because they planned everything so well that all I had to do with the other co-hosts just show up, and it was so amazing. I've never seen anybody run such a professional stream, not like some people I know. but it was good. It was good.
I mean, but you're a beast, because I definitely, I would right away, pretty much the moment I would see the email, I would be like, thank you for sharing this amazing opportunity. But unfortunately, and bum, bum,
Um,
bum, I would come
it
up with
was
something.
funny because the way I got it is because I started going to this Remix Austin meetup,
Hmm.
and I befriended the uh, guy who sets it up, Brooks, and Brooks
Hmm.
was the one who actually recommended me to Git Nation, and he
Oh,
kind of
wow.
said, "Hey, Paul would be perfect," and I was like, "I don't think I could say no because that would look bad," and I was like, "I mean,
Oh, just
I'm
think
sure I
about
could
it.
have,
You could,
but the opportunity was amazing." Yeah,
it could be another option for you as far as things you can do.
yeah, but it was pretty fun, and I think like getting in the community where you start getting more and more publicly involved, that does help to open up doors and build out your
Definitely,
reputation.
for sure.
You know?
That's why we always
Yeah.
say here that first thing you should do is go to a meetup, because that's gonna help you 10 times more than watching yet another YouTube video where you're being told that it's easy and you can get six figures by just, I don't know, following
Yeah.
specific course or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to check out some cool content, be sure to visit Paul's channel, Coding After 30. And while you're there, be sure to smash the like button and help with an algorithm. And if you prefer podcast format, you can always find us at webdevpowerhour.com, as well as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just look for Web Dev, you know the rest, and Power Hour. And blah, blah, blah. If you have any questions, just utilize the chat, please. If you cannot participate in live stream, basically, if you're listening to this as far as the recording, or we don't get to your question during the live stream, go to my channel, Coding Addict, and look for community posts. I was lucky enough, somebody suggested that you can start doing community posts, and then every week, basically, I set up the post of questions for next week's live stream, and you can leave the comment there with a question. Now, the live questions are going to be our priority, but leaving your question in the post comment is also a viable option. And as I can see in the chat, we got Brian, and sorry, Brian, for last week when I referred to you as Byron for some reason, but yeah, Brian, and we have
One
Ian.
of us was wrong.
we, we have Ian Bayless here. We have Alex, of course, who never sleeps. Alex also should have a different last name. He should have a person who just
Yeah,
doesn't
Alex
sleep.
never sleep.
Yeah, we got Kelvin from Kenya. It's 4:30 in the morning there. I
Damn.
mean, you're a warrior. Brian says that he tuned in for Paul's Mr. Remix stuff. Yeah, I bet it was really good. We have Engine Boy. Engine Boy, share the next project that you're working on. I'm really curious. Nice to see you guys already Saturday morning here. Where is that, Maxi? Where is the next morning already? I'm assuming that's that's probably on the other side of the globe.
Yep.
It doesn't look like we have anything, so let me just jump to that community post and we can just go through them one by one. So
The
some of them are
topic.
going to be extremely short, like, and then some of them are actually pretty interesting. Sorry, I interrupted you. You want to say something?
Oh no! I wasn't going to say anything of value except this is the best web dev podcast ever. So it almost doesn't matter what topic we pick, but we are going to have something really good for you. I just know it in
Hey,
my heart.
by the way, you know what? I want to mention something. Actually, last week I picked up a new podcast. That was
Oh,
also
nice.
really well.
Which one?
JavaScript Jabber. It's
JavaScript. Java.
JavaScript Jabber. Again, this is one of those things where something we have mentioned, that in this like day and age, you're dealing more with not the amount of content that you can get, because if you literally
Oh yeah,
if you
it's too much.
Google web dev podcasts, I mean, at this point, I'm guessing it's definitely way more than 10 at this point. And and if you include, let's say, how to make a startup or whatever, the SaaS company, then you another 15 probably. And anyway, where I'm going with this, that I mean, realistically, especially if you have another like responsibilities in life, you're not gonna, you cannot listen to all of them. So it literally
Yep.
comes down to like which one makes the most sense. And
Yep.
yeah, that JavaScript Java, there was tons of like great actual like tips
Nice.
that I was really happy that I picked it up. It has like tons of episodes though. So it's not like I listened to all of them. I believe the last one is like 500 and something. So they have been around, but I do like that they have very like solid and exact kind of like suggestions what they use for code, and then you can think about it like, does it make sense to me? Or maybe it's something that I'm doing and it's just confirmation that, oh, there's other people who also like this approach, for example. So yeah, I'm really happy with that one, and that's definitely going to be, I'll try to incorporate in my
Nice.
kind of schedule and everything.
No, that's awesome. I think creating content that is good rather than busy, so you get the value for the time invested rather than trying to consume.
Mm-hmm. Because that's another thing that I kind of definitely agree with. I read on somebody's post that at some point, let's say, for example, self-help books, right? A great way to kind of a great read. You know, when you start reading them and basically, you definitely see some improvements. But at some point, it literally every next book, it becomes
This
like,
is the
okay, I
same
read
thing.
this already before. So you rather want to spend
Yeah.
that time doing that stuff instead of
Yeah.
reading another book about it. And that's kind of this point where you really need to pick, is listening to every podcast a useful? I mean, I don't know. It depends, right? For me,
Right.
it's useful because I learned sometimes some nice words that I can use later in videos and stuff like that. So that's also, there's another another set of features why I like listening to the podcast. But there is at some point like, look, you probably should code instead of like listen. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some people who actually can do it both. I'm not one of
Yeah.
them.
No.
I
No.
cannot. Can
No.
you
Yeah.
listen to podcasts and code? No.
No, I
No,
can't.
no,
I
yeah, me
can't. If I
neither.
have to
Yeah.
think about what I'm doing, like then I have to listen to music without words. But Brian said we need a timer to see how long it takes Paul to start a motivational speech. I was about to say, like, yeah, if you looking for self-help books, you don't need to go any farther. You just have to watch the stream, because at some point I'm going to summarize what 99.999% of all those books say. Like, do the work. Like, don't do bad things. Work hard, and study or whatever. But they all eventually say the same thing. And I realized, and I only say this because believe it or not, it took me a while to realize this. But the only thing that matters is the action you put into the thing that you want to achieve. Like, consuming content more than putting action is going to hurt you. And so, I mean, please don't stop watching our channels. But at the same time, I was going to say, if you watching too much YouTube and you're not coding, I think like you need to figure out those priorities.
So definitely avoid the YouTube Shorts because
Yeah. Oh
they're
God. I
buzzkill.
disable it on my phone. I can't do it.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
don't. Yeah. I removed YouTube altogether.
I started doing shorts once in a while when I have like a really dumb idea, then I'll do one. But
No,
they're
I
pretty
mean,
interesting.
listen. There is a point where, like, I'm like, no one's a robot. I know that people do that Pomodoro clock, or I believe I'm pronouncing Pomodoro or
Yeah.
whatever. People know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I listened to some guy who's basically, he's very drastic in the sense that he's like, he does that Pomodoro or whatever. I'm hoping
Yeah.
I'm pronouncing it at least
Sounds
somewhat
good.
correctly, and then so he does some work, and then those 15 minutes or whatever minute he has break, he'll like reads a book. I mean, that is like, that's too much a little bit for me. I'm like, no, in
Yeah, I wouldn't
general,
go that nuts.
I do need to have a little bit of break. So if that's
Yeah.
I can watch something ridiculous and all that. Anyway, do we have anything? We probably have in the chat, but let me just quickly kind of scroll through the posts so we can start something. So, hi John, can you make some games? Nope, no games in any future. Just because I like web dev and I just don't have time for everything. React versus I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. React versus WordPress. Which should I learn? Depends on your job market. Depends whether you
Yep.
want to be a freelancer or not. For the most cases, again, that's probably not a cookie cutter approach, but I would say React. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, like I agree with you. Like, depends what you want to do. For instance, I mean, there's a lot of stuff with PHP. Like, if you learn PHP, there's other things outside of WordPress you could do as well. So, but if you're looking to find clients and you want to create websites fast for them, and you're going to provide like some sort of like SEO service, so like you have a package where it's not just a website, but it's like SEO or like pay-per-click campaign management, like I think that's a good combination for freelancers who want to do something. Or if it's like John said, it's like PHP and WordPress is like super high demand in your area. But for me, if I wanted to go the route of getting a developer job, I would go like the JavaScript route. Yeah.
Okay, let me scroll through this chat right away. So a special hi to Ian Bayliss. Nice to see you here. So morning from Kenya, Morocco, 2 a.m. Yeah, I suggest going to sleep. I mean, I would like, don't get me wrong, I always prefer sleep over anything. So yeah. Brian asked about C# on a community post, by the way. What do you think about this one, Paul? A question from Brian sounds like this. Do you think C# has a future in web dev and a chance of replacing JavaScript? Whoa, that's a very touchy subject. I say no. What do you think?
No, I don't think it's gonna like replace JavaScript. I feel like whatever path you decide, and we talk about this a lot, especially if it's popular in your area. But even if, let's say, you're just in general trying to figure out what path to take, like you could get a job with going the JavaScript route. You could get a job going C# and ASP.NET route. You could get a job going, PHP route. You just have to pick one. And what I would say, instead of thinking what's going to replace what, think about like, what skills do I have to learn in order to get hired as quickly as possible, and then create that path for yourself and just execute to get hired as fast as possible. Because once you're hired, you get to learn more on your job. So I wouldn't say like worry about that future question like that. Like we don't know if it's ever going to happen, if it's going to happen in 5, 6, 10 years, but it's like, is C# going to replace JavaScript because it's whatever, or WebAssembly, whatever it is. Like I feel like thinking about the future where you don't have a job now, it's not helpful. So find a path like with whatever programming language that you want to dive deep into, and work on getting hired, rather than thinking, how the landscape of JavaScript or web going to change, 3 to 5 years from now. So that's kind of going to be my thought. Don't add extra conversation in your head outside of like, hey, let me learn this skill to get hired.
No, that's one of those things that I think pretty much everybody in the beginning who entered the space made that mistake. I'm pretty sure. Again, I cannot speak for everyone, but it was definitely my case, because you kind of come with this mindset that there's finite info that you can learn, and the more you learn, basically the bigger chance for you to get hired. And the reality is, it's actually infinite things to learn. You can literally spend your entire life in some, I don't know, small niche of web dev, and you still, by maybe 10 years, you'll be like, yeah, I don't know everything about even this. Like, I'm not even talking about everything else. So literally, we can bring up examples where when, let's say, somebody works in production application for 2 years and they don't know how to start a new project. And that's not a knock on anybody. That's just because they've been like in this one thing focused on everything. And so kind of this idea that the more frameworks I'm going to learn, the more hireable I'm going to be. Or if I'm going to learn such and such and such, and like there's this kind of, listen, again, this is not a knock on anybody, but full stack development sounds awesome. But in reality, at this point in age, you can actually get so much more done with just the front end, and then pick up CMS, of course, Strappy, and you can complete that back end, right? And let's say even that is like you going and applying for that job. It doesn't matter what backend you build if you can show the front end. Look, this is what I like. This is how I can fetch data. This is how I can set up the user. I can do all of those things. I mean, again, I understand that there are no jobs for Firebird per se, but if it's just basically, that's my backend where I just want to store the data and whatever, go for it. Again, I would prefer Strappy just because of simple fact that I enjoy those HTTP requests. I think it's crucial because that's going to be your reality in your job. And like a lot of CMSs don't offer that. They basically give you the SDK, which is a good option to use, but it's not going to be your reality. Like you'll have to know how to. get the info, store it in a state, store it, I don't know, maybe some in local storage or whatever. So that's why. And where I'm going is that it's not always just to know like more technologies, just a little bit. I know a little bit of C#. I know a little bit of no. You rather want to be an expert on something on one front end and then just build bigger and more complex projects. That was my ramble.
Exactly. That is basically could be accomplished with C#. It could be accomplished with JavaScript. But when you're starting out, don't do all your options. Just pick one path because you'll get there. But like John said, you want to, instead of knowing a little bit about a lot, you want to know fewer things well. You want to get that deeper understanding. 100% agreed.
What React project should I build as a beginner to get a junior dev position? This is always something that I'm going to say. E-commerce is a very good one because it showcases the things that you can do. And again, the point is not, it's not about like, oh, copy this from this and this tutorial. It's the point like, no, I created that. And that's going to be that key difference. And the same goes, I really like the Paul's idea about bug tracker. And if you
it wasn't my idea.
Yeah, but you brought it to my attention. So Engine Boy took it to another level. So where he basically like built the whole thing. That's also because it includes roles, and that's already kind of next step and everything. So and on that topic, I want to repeat something that I've said many times. You don't need 20 projects on your portfolio if you have one. And let's say it's complex enough, that bug tracker, for example, you don't need 15 other ones. They know that you understand how to make other ones if you can create that one. So again, this is not a race to make more projects. Yes, I mean, of course, the more projects you make, the better you're going to get. But the idea is that you slowly they get more complex. So it's not going to be about how many, but it's basically going to be, okay, I have this, whatever one. So that's why I always suggest have 3 of them, 3 projects in the portfolio, and just change. The more complex one you have, pick the one that's less complex out, and then next one. So
what I tell people, they should have one cornerstone project, which is like a project that took you maybe 2 to 3 months to build. Like it's a significant project. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know how to start. How would I even go about building such a massive project? So what I used to do is I'll use an example. For instance, I want my project to have like a blog section and people able to leave comments and then people able to assign tasks, whatever. That's already sounds too complex. So what I do is, let's say I'll create a mini project. All it is blog posts, right? And then I'll make another mini project, which is like, comments or or a bug tracker, just that one feature. And so I'm basically building mini projects, which are features that I could integrate together in my bigger project. So everything that I do prior is related to what I want to build moving forward. So like, I will not build like a tic-tac-toe game because it doesn't fit in the bigger goal of having a bigger project. I'm not saying like there's anything wrong about coding games with JavaScript. I think it's quite challenging. But from the standpoint, it's like, whatever I build prior should be like a building block that I could use in my more, advanced or complex project. So it's like by pieces, I build these blocks of knowledge, and then I take everything together and put it together.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a sucker for those ones because every time I learn new technology, what I'm trying to do is pretty much kind of divide it into functionalities, whether that is a framework, whether that is, I don't know, library, whatever. And then just kind of try to set up them separately. And then as I work on that one specific functionality, I push it up to GitHub. And then as I'm building something bigger, it's always like, hey, I built that sidebar already. Hey, I built already the way how to fetch data. So let me go and quickly check how was like that, just that one functionality. And then I essentially incorporate it in my code. So I love small, even throwaway projects. I'm total sucker for them. We have a Danish. The company I work for uses C#, but for UI we use React because Blazor has its issues. Backend is typically Azure Functions with Azure AD Auth. I'm just very curious, how do you communicate though from front end? Is that some kind of REST request? or what how does that look like? I'm always curious about those type of things. Pa pa pa. Hi John, sorry for the spam, but are you making a TypeScript React with Redux tutorial anytime soon? There's no time zone. There's no like timelines as soon or not soon. At the moment, realistically, what I'm doing right now is updating React course, because I updated Node course, I updated Mern course. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do. Look, if Redux Toolkit, oh, there's my best friend. If Redux Toolkit comes out with something that like with some new feature and the old one doesn't work, yes, I have to go and update. The same happened with Axios. The same happened with React Router 6. And I was just like, there's a list of things that, and they're not big and they're really annoying because you literally need to find the video where it happened. Then you need to like add the extra stuff, and then you anyway. So that's what I'm doing right now. And the big thing is that React is React 18. I need to update some parts of tutorial because people keep bringing it up, like, hey, why the code is different in this one, and why you're using Node version 12? It's already outdated and whatever.
Oh my god.
So,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
yeah, that's the life of. I just in general, it's gonna be most likely TypeScript, just because I'm waiting for next 13 to kind of just settle. So, but
I think that's smart. I think building TypeScript course is smart.
Yeah, but it's essentially I keep one thing happens as I'm updating. I usually get sick of it. I just want something I want to start something new. So it's gonna happen pretty soon. And I'll definitely you'll be the first ones to know.
Yeah, and so I was actually gonna work on a course showing how you could build a dynamic website using Strappy on the backend to be able to build your pages and have like content editors edit stuff dynamically. But I guess like what I was wondering if that's setting up the backend, but what framework would you and the audience would like to see? Would you want to see Remix or Next.js? Because if no one says anything, I'm just going to use a Remix. Both. So here's the thing. So the features that I love now in Remix, they're so nice that when trying out the experimental, and I hope no one in Vercel watches this, sorry, features in, I love Next.js, it's awesome. It was just, it's not ready yet, you know what I mean? And so for me,
but you're talking about 13 now.
Yeah, 13, like their API folder structure. So you know how typically you will have that pages folder, but now you could have this API or not API app folder structure. And the cool part that I'm going to say, I'm not going to lie, like they do the things that they said they're going to do. You could have this like cool nested routing that you weren't able to do nicely before in Next.js. And then also they have that use hook that allows you to make data fetching like really straightforward. But I am curious, there's like that use, meaning like getting data that runs on the initial route load, but I wonder how do they if they have like a similar approach to handling mutations, where like in Remix, you have your loader function that gets data, and then you have your action function that posts data. And it's so easy and awesome how it works that for me, building things with Remix is so much easier. And what I found out, Remix is cool in a sense that it makes you write less React code and more following the HTML like and web standards. Well, I should say like web standards. So a lot of the documentation that you'll be looking at outside of like, because Remix, there's not that much stuff to learn. Like you could literally, if you know React, you could learn Remix like in a week for sure, like 100%. And what's awesome, like once you know the initial parts of Remix, the rest of the documentation you're like reading is literally stuff on MDN, like how forms work or how's like whatever. And I like that, like going to the basics. And for me, like Remix is onto something. And so I'm happy that Shopify acquired Remix to kind of have that financial backing to allow it continue to grow. And like I love Next.js too, but at the end of the day though, I'm like, wow, like Remix is doing some good things, and I do want to give them props. And I think it's nice to have other alternatives that do things well outside of like having Next.js that is so like huge it's a big company and like everybody likes it, because you want to have competition in the space to continue having, improvements and innovations.
No, it's definitely going to be. I'm very excited about both of them because I think that, I mean, there's not much to say but good things about the guys behind Remix, of course, because of React Router and everything. I mean, they're just brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just, I mean, just geniuses in my opinion. And Next.js has also shown the resilience to kind of all the time be up to date. So it's gonna be very cool and interesting. Basically, this kind of mini race, which, like you say, is a good thing for community. If you have like a framework that's like basically outdated and everything, then it's not the best thing. Yeah, let me check. The chat is somewhat. We have answered everything, so we have C# as far as for now. Bum bum bum. John, how to build Unreal Engine clone or how it's built. I checked what is actually Unreal Engine clone. I didn't know what was Unreal Engine, and yeah, I really have nothing to answer. I remember
Like,
I checked like 1 week ago. So and yeah,
it's like how to make your own game development environment.
Yeah, no.
Where you write code with C++. That's like takes a whole team of a lot of people, way smarter than I am too.
Yeah, not not to what's the name for this one? Not to gossip over here, but you want to know funny email that I got? Like, I don't know, like a
Yeah.
month ago, I got an email from the guys like, yeah, can you like basically can you let me know what technologies I need to use to build LinkedIn? I'm like, excuse me, what? So you just want me to randomly list you all the technologies that you need in order to build LinkedIn? Like, yeah, I don't think it's way above my pay grade.
For emails like that, what you do is you send them like, yes, that sounds like a consulting. This is what I charge. I charge $250 for consulting. I would love to schedule something with you, and then they'll never ask you questions anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
I should have sent that because I
yeah,
didn't reply,
yeah.
and in a week that person was pretty persistent of like, just like, hey,
It's,
I'm still waiting for the answer. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Speaking of like best, like I don't know if it was a troll because the kid sounded like really young, but it was hilarious because in Strappy like Discord, like hang out, we're talking about stuff,
Mhm.
and Strappy is based on Node, right? It's built with JavaScript, and someone comes up and they're like, how come Strappy, like how could I use Strappy with PHP? And I was kind of like, like kind of like pause a second because I was like, wait a second. And like I right away, like I was like, man, this person is trolling. And I'm like, how am I going to respond to this? And so I did the normal way, be like, well, like PHP is a different programming language. Like Strappy is built with Node. And then if you want to work with PHP, there's Laravel, there's WordPress, and that's kind of the route you would take. But they're just like basically built with two different languages. And after he, like I said, that he had like the most polite, like, thank you. And then like there's other people in the chat and they're like, man, like, I don't know, was that like a troll? If it was like a really good troll. But at the same time, they were so polite. I was like, oh, it's some young kid who's just learning to code. And I was like, appreciate the curiosity, but it was just kind of funny and cute at the same time. I was like, very, very polite troll, or that was a generous, like genuine question.
No, that also like my email. It sounded like, at least as far as I checked, that the person was like getting into industry and everything. But it's just like such a like, in my opinion, overwhelming question because it's not like, again,
Yeah.
we're talking about the sites that employ I don't know how many engineers. So the reality, I mean, can you do like a poor man's version or the clone? Yeah, in the most basic version where you have a few users and they can leave the comments and maybe comment on each other and whatever. But the moment you start going into weeds of like, hey, you know how you send messages and how you have a live chat and how you like, look, it's not just, 3 lines of code and I have that feature and let's keep going, like, especially as your project gets bigger with every feature, then you need to start worrying about, your entire code base and everything. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
the long way. This one is a good, Paul. You'll like this one. This one we can spend another hour on. What is your opinion on the current tech layoff and when it's going to end? So I can tell you right away that if I would know the answer for that, I would be a very rich person because I would just do investing if I would know when the crises are going to end. In reality, no one knows. Even people who say they do, they don't. Usually, what I like the saying that even the wrong clock shows the right time twice. Meaning, if somebody has been screaming about recession for already 20 years, yeah, at some point they'll get it right. It doesn't mean that they're knowledgeable and everything. They just keep repeating pretty much the same thing. Yeah, next year is going to be a recession. Next year is going to be okay, and then in 20 years,
it's like, oh wait, we just finished the recession. It's like after the fact, people.
Yeah. So,
but I would.
Yeah. Sorry. No. It's fine. I'll just piggyback on whenever you're done.
Oh no. I was just gonna say, yeah, like to your point, it's hard to predict these things, but one thing that I try to focus on, because it could be very depressing, like when you constantly think about all the negative things that are happening, even though they're true. Like I feel like, let me just focus on the thing that I can control in my life and do the things that I need to do, rather than being like, am I hireable? Like, is there a job for me today? And maybe it'll be really hard to get a job, but the way I look at it is like, you're still like, don't focus on if there's a job for you or not. Just focus on improving your skills, getting better and better and better. When things do get easier, getting a job, or you do find that opportunity, you're ready for it. You know what I mean? That's kind of all I want to say. It's like, only focus on the things you can't control.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna repeat pretty much what I've said, I believe, last 2 times. So this is becoming like a topic I think that we'll have to discuss pretty much every time show. Because we're getting this question. But the web dev is no different than any other industry. Yes, there's more opportunities and everything because it's constantly evolving and everything. But of course, if there's a like economic downturn, which again, by the way, recessions are normal way of economy just cleaning it out, like kind of what doesn't make sense. So let's say the reason why you see so many layoffs because there was also a lot of hires because of the pandemic and everything. So it's not, again, I'm not talking here about Twitter. That's a little bit different situation what's happening there. But in general, you kind of, if the company sees that they don't make, money and everything, yes, they will be laying people off. At the same time, you cannot predict simply because you don't know what is going to take off. I don't think that, let's say, e-commerce is going to be kind of slowing down. No, I think it's the more and more is going to be, sales is going to be actually happening in e-commerce. So there's going to be, in my opinion, many areas that are actually going to expand. The same thing I witnessed in 2008 when the crisis was happening. There was yes, there was this major, the real estate and all that, but at the end of the day, there was many industries that were actually doing really well and actually hiring and yeah, things were going well. It just really depends. So I wouldn't discourage anybody just to get in web development just because of the layoffs in a big company. I don't think that it's that connected as people think. As far as, let's say, in my local market. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah,
100%.
I was gonna say I agree with that. Focus on breaking into the industry and getting the skill rather than because like the state of the economy. Because once things start to get better, like you'll just be ready for it.
Yeah, you'll be ready to start work. I don't think that. Again, I don't think that you'll be better off going to some other industry. I don't think that, let's say, this is going to be somehow worst for tech industry as far as if it is. Again, I don't want to even use those terms because I don't understand. Like at the moment, you have so many opinions about it. Is it recession? Is it not? Like why people are like, there's always all the time everywhere. There's still hiring signs and everything. So I don't want to get into it. What I'm trying to say is that regardless of the state of the economy, going for programming is a right choice. And if, let's say, yes, it's going to be some slowdown and maybe, companies are not going to hire as much, things will go back to quote unquote normal. That's definitely my opinion. That's my prediction. I cannot say when is that going to, but that's definitely my prediction.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this one. Hi guys, go to university for 2.5 years on a web dev program or forget diploma, myth. and dive into Udemy courses. And that's a great, really good one. This one is. What do you think?
I'm gonna let you go first. I have an answer that a lot of people are like, really? That's what Paul said? I'll be like, yeah, that's what I said. So I'll let you go first because
So
it
first of
might be
all,
surprising to people.
if the question would be computer science, I'm sensing that you are a young person. You're not like these two old dudes that are having Friday night party.
You mean like that guy, that guy, the older,
This guy
or
and
this
that guy.
guy, this
Yeah,
guy?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So if that would be computer science, I would definitely say computer science, just because you'll have more options and you'll have no problem picking up web dev. If let's say you finish 2.5 and you're like computer science, and you're like, no, this doesn't make sense. Why I'm doing these algorithms? I don't want to work for such and such company, working with such and such language. You'll have no problem like taking those skills and basically, and by the way, my camera went down, taking those skills and then applying them to web dev and picking up the whatever language you need. Have no problem switching over. If it's a web dev program, that's a little bit different. Simply because why I'm saying this again, I'm not discouraging anybody from attending university. Let me be very clear. I attended myself, and I actually have no regrets. Do I use any of the stuff that I learned? No, zero. But it was still a good idea. Overall, I'm pretty happy. Again, I didn't waste hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was lucky because I picked cheap programs because I was going to community colleges and all that. But if it's a web dev program, my issue with that is that since it's a university program, it might be outdated. Case in point, I actually I got into the trouble on Twitter, Paul, last week. So here's what happens. I go on Twitter, and this is with a point, so you'll see where I'm going with this. I'm scrolling through the Twitter, through your tweets, so I could blame you. And I
Nice.
popped that there's an ad pops up for the bootcamp that's associated with a university, which right away gives them legitimacy or whatever, right? So it's not like some, hey, this is Bob's coding school, come here and I'm gonna whatever, right? Or some random dude. This is actual university. So even people who don't know anything about coding, like if I were like prior to me being in industry, I also looked at them like, oh, that's legit, right? That's not some random dude scamming me. Now, guess what they teach for, I bet you it's more than 10 grand. And I'm not gonna name here university, it doesn't matter. There's many of them, by the way. Pretty much every major university has that bootcamp. And as you can see, I'm getting agitated already. So they teach HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery in 2022.
Yeah.
Right. And then I posted this and I kind of laid out my tweet very bad. And I was like, really in 222. And I started like, hey, there's still many jQuery jobs. What are you talking about? You don't know it. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. I understand. Yes, there's jQuery code. Yes, most likely if you go to work for some company, they might put you on some old code where you have to actually debug jQuery. There's nothing wrong with you. If you know the jQuery, you can apply those things. My point is how you can reasonably charge somebody 10 plus grand for jQuery in 2022. Come on. No React, no framework, nothing. I'm surprised they didn't add some random Java course in there that's like, okay, you learn 3 months front-end development, and then in 3 months you'll be a back-end developer and everything. So that's my issue with university courses. It takes a very long time for them to approve something. So by the time they probably approve the program, maybe they have Angular 1. What are you going to do with Angular 1? I mean, are there jobs? Yes,
Nothing.
but most likely you're better off with Udemy courses. Again, doesn't have to be my course, but in general, you'll be better off. Yeah, I'll let you go, Paul.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that a lot of those bootcamp courses that are backed by university, you got to be careful with, because a lot of times it's a third-party program that basically went to the university and said, hey, can we mention your name and say this is a program associated with you? And for every student we sign up, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars. So for the college, it's like, hey, extra free money. All you have to say this is brought to you by this university, and be very careful. What I would say, instead of taking out, like if you're looking to go that route, either go to a boot camp that people went to and had really good results, or literally, like if you're young enough, like, so this is my recommendation. If you're young enough and your parents either help with education, or you live in a country where education is subsidized, or you have the opportunity to go to college and get the CS degree, computer science degree, like go do it. Because it's not only the degree, it's also that whole college experience, working with other kids, like meeting people, hanging out. It's just a great experience all around. So if you're young and like financially it makes sense, like definitely like have that college experience. I think that in itself is super important, because the friends and the connections you'll make will lead to opportunities later in life. But if you don't fit that bill, either find a boot camp that you've done a lot of research, because there's some good ones and there's some terrible ones, or go the self-route way, which is the way I went and a lot of people go, and just know the pros and cons of each. The coolest thing about going the self-taught route is that you're always going to be learning whatever the current new thing is, because there's no one like defining your curriculum. Like you get to choose, so you could do your research and find what's in demand. And the cons is actually like the same thing, because you're get to decide what you want to learn. You might decide to learn the wrong thing. So that's where, like, if you're self-taught, it's not just so much listening to other people and what they recommend, but it's doing your own research to decide what your curriculum should look like in order to get hired. So that's kind of like what I said. Like they're all like really good approaches, just depending where you are in life. For instance, I'll tell you right now, if my job said, Paul, will pay for your tuition to go get the computer science degree, like I would do it. Like I have no problem with doing that.
Same here.
The reason why I didn't go back to university is because I already like had like, over like $60,000 in college debt that I already paid off. And to kind of go back to college to pay another $60,000 for school, I was just like, nah, it's not worth it for me. And boot camp, the reason I didn't go to boot camp is because I eventually got hired, like learning stuff on my own. And let's say if I really felt like, oh man, I really need this boot camp to help me land a job, I probably would have went to boot camp. I'm just, was able to get hired before getting to the point where I felt like I needed to.
Yeah, that's like one thing that I can kind of repeat for sure is regardless of which option you take, you'll still have to do your own research. You cannot just, like, one thing I always suggest to people, don't rely on somebody else doing your job. It's not going to happen. Whether it's a boot camp, whether it's even a university, there are people who finish university and they have hard time finding a job because no one does that for you. No one is going to go and apply for those companies, send out the resumes, ask what happened in the previous one, what I can improve and all that. Nobody. It's only you who can do that. And the same goes for, yes, if you can afford, go for a bootcamp. It's awesome. It's like they already prepare everything, but do the research on the bootcamp. If you're going to somebody who's going to just send you some slides with some old technology, then again, you're in the same spot. So that's why I always, again, I'm nothing against bootcamps there. There's plenty, there's enough good bootcamps out there that you can definitely attend if you have the money and everything. My issue is with that when you do the self-learning, at least you have this option of like doing the research yourself, educating yourself. And at 2022, again, you can learn all those technologies yourself. It's just about basically kind of making your own schedule, being responsible for what you do. Watching YouTube is not doing the work. It's actually coding and everything. And essentially you can get those things done. It's not a unrealistic thing, but you just need to basically apply the work. That's it. That's what it comes down to. And at the end of the day, whatever the bootcamp says, you'll still have to apply for jobs yourself. So I would even argue you doing the self-taught route and going to the meetups, it's going to be far more productive. Again, that's just my opinion. And I'm not even talking about the burnouts and everything, because you need to be realistic when you start coding.
I guess what I would say, if you're like really self-directed and you're going to motivate yourself, you're going to do the work regardless, you're going to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation of talking to people of, what you did wrong, like getting out there in the community, going to meetups, like reaching out to recruiters, not being afraid to talk to them, like self-taught route, like is a good way to go. But all those things I just mentioned, you need to do those to increase your chances of getting hired or finding opportunities. Because if you think like if you learn the technology, let's say, but you don't do any of that other stuff I mentioned, like you're not gonna get hired because nobody owes you a job. Like that's something you have to like fight for yourself through creating your own opportunities, through making connections with people, meetups, doing talks. All those things help, so definitely keep that in mind. Like I think like if someone feels like, oh, if I just get the degree, or if we just finish boot camp, or even if I just take these Udemy courses, I'm guaranteed to get hired. No, you're not guaranteed anything, regardless if you go to college, regardless if you do a boot camp, regardless if you do the self-taught route. You have to do the work to guarantee that success for yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. So we have a question about Axios. Essentially, thank you for all the content. Do you have any video on Ajax? Can't seem to find it. Depends. Like, what do you mean by Ajax? Because there's, are we just talking about straight up JavaScript? Then you need to look in the JavaScript nuggets where we cover fetch. If you're talking about Axios, which is essentially using library, I can share the link for that in the comments. And we have also with
I just saw your elbow and I was like, is that Matt Burn?
This one? Yes. I also have it here.
Yeah, that's from getting choked. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, very perceptive.
No. It's choking all the time. No, I'm totally like I'm getting beat up badly in there, but that's why I love it. No, it's an awesome gym. I've been second week, I believe. Second or third. Yeah, so no, I'm really enjoying it. Today was open mat, so I was like for 1 hour and a half in there. I'm like out, I'm like all exhausted. Yeah. That's the mat burn and everything. Just need to buy, I guess, the bigger rash guard and everything. Maybe that's gonna help.
Yeah.
Okay, so got discouraged. Just find out being backstabbing from so-called friends for life is okay. That's I'm sorry, I'm not laughing, but that's some weird comment. Went till the end of JS, got discouraged, just found out about being backstabbing from so-called friends for 10 years. Life is, I'm not gonna say that. Get to learning and make yourself strong. Yes.
The thing I was gonna say to that comment, so this year's been like super rough in my life. I went through like so much crazy stuff, very bad. And what I was gonna say, that doesn't make me special from like dealing with setbacks and terrible situations in life. We all experience those things. And what I would say is that everybody's gonna go through life where there's gonna be disappointments, and like exactly like you mentioned, like continue to learn and make yourself strong by knowing that if anything going to happen in your life, it's up to you, and just continue on your path, regardless who does something bad for you. Just literally cut your ties with them as fast as possible and move on, move forward. And that's kind of like what I've been doing. By the way, that's why I block so many people on Twitter. And I don't know if that's the right way of using Twitter, but people always like complain to me like, Paul, like, do you get posts like this on Twitter? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? I usually just block people and mute people just because I don't want that negative energy in my life at all.
I have I have blocked like I don't know, I want to say up to 5, but it's simply for the same reason. It's just kind of like at some point everyone goes through stuff, and I don't think that all the time, like pretty much every day, me, let's say, broadcasting that does any good to everybody else. Yes, you can like come out like, let's say one day you have, I don't know, you had enough or whatever, maybe, okay, but in general, not that you need to be phony or fake, but also all the time, no, that's kind of yeah. That's why I like Paul posts about his music and cats and remix,
music, and remix, and Strappy.
Yeah, I open up my Twitter and then I see DJ Pauly. So
I have to make some. Yeah, I have to make some more music. My headphones like got destroyed, so I have to get the wired, and these like I can't hear like the sound, so I have been kind of not messing around and making music. But yeah, it's fun having hobbies. But yeah, Twitter is what you make it to be. So I just block everybody. You could block people that do advertisements. Like if people like promote, you could literally just block. Like I don't want to see any ads from this person because I'm not interested. which is kind of
Yeah, and I
cool.
mean, and you also you control how many people you follow. For example,
Yeah,
I don't follow tons of people simply not because I have something against people, but I don't want to have like I want to see specific things in my feed that actually make sense to me. And if it's going to be extremely long with just like extremely irrelevant information, then there's really no point for me to sit
yeah,
there. And I haven't
exactly.
been actually, to honestly, lately been so busy at work that I haven't been really. I just pretty much see your posts. So
Yeah,
yeah, I just scan through
I
them.
ha- I have a friend who's also on YouTube, and I wanted to like kind of like share something and tag him. I'm like, hey, what's your Twitter handle? And he's like, Twitter. I don't have Twitter. And I was like, good man. Like, it's so amazing that you're able to do that. Then, it's kind of interesting. So Twitter has the power for good, but it also has power for bad. But I like this comment here. I think I'm going to read it. I'm using your React course. Wow, what a course! I have learned so much. Almost at the end of hope I will be confident enough to make my own projects. You are a rock star, John. Thank you for all the content. Even now, I just finished the sidebar and navbar using your context. I have told all my friends who are looking for courses everywhere to check out your channel. And I 100% agree because you do make really good courses when it comes to the stuff that you're doing. And uh, yeah, I really like it because I know like I always say positive things about your courses, so it's nice to see somebody else say something nice. Not that you don't get. So here's the funny thing. So we did a couple of posts on my channel where you showed up, and to this day, I still get posts like, John is the best person. Can you tell him how awesome he is? Like everybody's just like, John is so awesome, and I'm like, how about Paul is awesome? Like, why don't you say that? Paul is awesome. We're having John on like his channel one time. Like, I mean, come on. Like, no, but so many good compliments. And because like I personally know people that literally went through your courses and got hired. Like and me, like, I know there's many courses out there, but having good curriculum and good material which you could feel relatable to like the instructor, I think is a good way to go and get stuff done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. I'm not, this is not, this is not a buy. I'm just saying thank you. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm always happy if the content makes sense. And again, that's why I know it's annoying that I'm for myself that I'm not producing anything new, but that's also comes with those updates. I want people to start off the course, and if it's something that again, I'm not talking about the just little version change, but if it's something that I think that makes sense, if I definitely showcase, or if you might get a bug, then yeah, there's going to be an update, and it just takes a little bit longer. So we've got
You got a super chat from AG
yes,
Soundbite.
yes. Thank you, AJ. No problem for offloading. I couldn't.
This is why the community is here.
Yes. This is
To be honest, like I don't want to go into my story. This year was like really terrible for me, like on so many levels. And knowing that there was a community on YouTube, just knowing like that I have someone that I could think of, like helped me make it through the crazy dark times I had. And so I totally like understand. And like John said, no problem. Like we all need a place where we could, like, we're humans at the end of the day, and our lives are filled with difficulty. And so it's important to have a place where you feel like you belong and you could share your story while trying to work on making a difference in your life through switching careers or learning to code or what have you. So no, it's awesome.
Yeah, and that was the whole reason why we started this thing, and that's why it's always been, again, it's been irrelevant of like the views and whatever. It's always been the case of like we wanted to make a place where we just come hang out, talk, whatever. It doesn't there's no like we used to have themes, we don't have themes anymore, and we just come here and talk about whatever, because I think that it's especially like with the when the COVID is happening, then when you couldn't go anywhere and whatever. And it's also like more convenient because everybody can be at their home, just turn on the computer, just post a question and talk and whatever. I think it's very good. I mean, again, if you're doing that all day long, then you should be getting to work. But if it's a place where you can come, you can discuss things, you can share info, share resources, whatever it is, I think I personally find it extremely useful. I really enjoy it, so that's why it's yeah.
But by the way, completely like off like topic. But people ask me like, why do I always try to be friendly? Why do I always say nice things about, like people, like even on Twitter, like if it's possible to believe that you could say nice things on Twitter. But and I know like Thomas is referring for something earlier, but Thomas Pendleton put a message. Paul is awesome. And you know what I want to say? I want to say Thomas is awesome. Thomas, you're the best. And I love that because it really showcases that energy. Like if you say something nice about somebody else, they're so likely to engage with you and say something nice back. And I feel like that's why my, strategy, not strategy, but always policy is to always be nice and always give people the benefit of the doubt and just be positive person. Because yeah, some people are going to put you in situations where you're like, oh, that person wasn't a friend that I thought he was or she was. But more importantly, you'll meet more positive people with whom you can make connections that would lead to like job opportunities. So I like that's really awesome. Like doing these positive messages. Yeah, Thomas, you're awesome. Like,
No, it definitely sucks. Let me like give you a personal story. So when we like California is an interesting place. People are very kind of self-centered. Like we literally had this thing where the neighbors just don't say hi. It's not because we're like, I don't know, painted their door or whatever, like smashed their window. It's literally like in the morning you come out and just like pass by and it's like, well, but wait a minute. That's like a most basic, like human, like, hello, good morning, how are you, whatever.
yeah.
Where I'm going with this in Florida is totally different. So, like, if that's the case, don't try to change yourself. Just be like, I always was the same way, and you'll find the place where it's far better because in here and especially if you go to jiu-jitsu gym as a side note, people seem to be way nicer in there. It's
so I have the theory here. A lot of people like disagree with me.
Yeah, I want to hear your theory.
Here's why all the people in jiu-jitsu are awesome. People that do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, they are literally dangerous. Like literally dangerous. If you get too close to them and you piss them off, you're in trouble. Like if you're have zero training, Brazilian jiu-jitsu like will go a long way to defend yourself. I'm not saying it's the only way, but the reason I'm saying this, people know what fighting is. They understand the culture. They understand what they're capable. They understand, and also there's the way jiu-jitsu works. There's no pretending, right? Like you could be a white belt, someone could be a black belt. You will do live sparring where one person is going to win, and it could be you or it could be the other person. And so you have this like respect for each other, being like, hey, you're very like capable of hurting me, but you didn't. And I guess I can, like, if you're not familiar with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I guess I should have started with that. You basically able to spar all out, and to keep things safe, what you do is when you put a submission hold, which is like a hold that could do some serious damage, for instance, choke someone out unconscious or break their arm or rip their leg off, very common move. When you do, I mean, that's what it is. You're literally learning in jiu-jitsu how to maim people. And here's the cool thing. The respect comes from the fact that if John and I roll and he catches me like in a leg lock, which could literally tear my knee in half, for which I would have to do crazy surgery, and I may never walk the same. And when I tap, basically I go like this to John, he will let go. He will not injure me. And that's where that respect comes from. It comes from the power of knowing the damage you could do to someone, and then understanding him respect that. Like when you catch someone, when they tap, you like, oh, because you kind of like the respect goes both ways. It's hard to explain if you don't do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the reason why I say people are nicer because they understand that there's nothing they could prove by getting violent or getting loud. They just want to be friendly and want to be outgoing because they understand like the reality of like what fighting is. And so I feel like there's a lot of people online that like to talk smack. And this is one of my gripes against Twitter, is that people say things on Twitter that they will never say to your face. You know what? Like I would never show up to John's house being like, your JavaScript course is just like, I don't even know. Like my grandma makes better JavaScript courses. And I would never say that to him in his face. Like, and so I feel like Twitter, because it creates that space, you're able to have conversations that you would never have in real life. Just because of the idea that, number one, why would you be that mean in real life? And number two, you might say something to the wrong person, regardless how you feel about them. You might be in some serious trouble. AJ Soundbites, by the way, says, joined MMA and I did fight last year because John mentioned BJJ. These guys are all about giving us knowledge, and thank you for inspiration. John came from construction background. But hey, he knows your whole history. That's awesome. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
MMA is good too. I would say like when you're young, it's good. Like I've done Muay Thai, done MMA, and something about getting punched in the head is just not cool. Eventually, it stops being cool. Like
no, I have my
you know,
2 cents as far as what I've seen. Again, Paul has way more knowledge on jiu-jitsu, so whatever I'm saying, I'm just that's just what I've noticed. But it seems to me that people like in jiu-jitsu, you do need that other person to roll. You're not gonna do the moves yourself all the time. You're not gonna spar with yourself. So if you're being a complete ass, I don't know. I'm not saying people are not going to roll with you, but in general, there's this culture where you come in and you just show like, just do normal respect. You're like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And then you roll, you shake hands and everything. And you need that person there. You can like, if you don't have anybody to roll with, your jiu-jitsu game is also not going to improve. But again, I'm just talking from what I've seen and everything.
No, yeah, it's true. So everybody go do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's really good for you. Jake Smith has a good question. I think it's nice. At what point should you start breaking your JS functions into different files using modules? I like having all my functionality in one file, but it goes to over 1,500 to 2,000 lines of JS. For big projects, anyway, should be using modules? That's this question.
Oh, wow.
That's
2,000 lines of code?
That's ridiculous. No, I mean like it's a lot.
I have like what? I have 20, and then I usually run for the hills.
But he brings up very interesting point, because there's that idea of like abstracting your code away, and you could over abstract things away. And so how do you decide what to do? Like for instance, I was working on a company where I wrote a lot of abstraction because I wanted to have really small like files that I could just look at and be like, okay, this is what's happening here. And then it's calling a function that lives like in another like file, like whatever. And I was told that I was doing too much abstracting, and that it leads to adding unnecessary like issues with readability when other people look at your code. So it's kind of finding that balance between writing code in a way where, in my opinion, you should write code in a way where someone new coming into it is able to read it, like write it on a 10th grade level. Like if we were talking about, let's say, English writing, where someone could easily understand, and based on the code you wrote, they could see the context of what you're doing. And sometimes when you do move stuff to other functions and you over like abstract away certain things, it makes it really hard for people to follow your code. But at the same time, I think 1,500 lines of code to 2,000 lines of code, that's maybe there's something that you could move away because it makes sense.
No, for me, again, this comes down to preference. Again, we can kind of, by the way, how much time you have? We are 107. So
yeah, let's do like another 5 minutes. I think.
Okay. So yeah, let me respond to this one, and then basically we'll close it out. So from like there is this kind of approach where function just does one thing. This definitely creates a bunch of functions. Like if your every function is going to do just one thing only, or let's say one return or whatever, then yeah, then it's going to be quite you'll have to split it up in a bunch of models. And for me, it definitely comes down to preference, because there is no like, rule. I mean, you can literally write everything in 2,000 lines in one file, or you can write every single thing in basically for every function. For me, what makes sense, for example, if we're just talking about vanilla JS, for example, I split up the logic where, as far as selecting things, I create a function that selects everything and throws the error if the element doesn't exist. Like that's kind of one example. Another one, every time I have some kind of callback in the event listener, that's a separate function. And if let's say I can, if I can access the scope and everything, then I put it in a separate file. Because again, if possible, if that's actually doable and everything. So that's how I usually structure. Lastly, I don't prefer functions with, let's say, some kind of like 3 conditions, for example, right? Depending on parameter. And then you start like if, and then returns, and if else, and whatever.
Yeah, too many things, yeah.
I prefer readability over that dry concept. I get the dry concept. Yeah, you shouldn't repeat yourself. But if let's say you have two functions that, yeah, technically the most of the code is the same, but if you combine it in one and then you add, let's say, one more function, and then you have
Yeah.
these conditions, if this, if this, if this, then it's kind of becomes, okay, yeah, there is some repetition, but I rather would have that repetition instead of this thing, because it's later when you come and look at the function, you at least understand what it's doing. If you have those tons of conditions, you're like, wait a minute, so this is because, okay. So yeah, that's just kind of my long answer here.
Yeah, a classic book for people to check out that covers a lot of this stuff. It's called Clean Code by Uncle Bob or Robert Martin. So I'll put the name in the chat here, but it's a really good book that kind of covers these type of topics. I think just getting a general like idea, but like you said, there is no complete wrong or right way of doing things. And my policy is when I do my personal project, I follow what I like, what makes sense to me. But at work, like I will do whatever they tell me to do. You know what I'm saying? If they say this is, you need to abstract everything away, I'll be like, okay, let's do it. If they say like, no, you have to keep everything in one file, I'll be like, okay, let's do it. So there is a lot of that personal preference of what you should be doing.
Yeah, and definitely it's the case when you work as part of a team. I think I've told this story already before, but let's say when you go, a lot of cases when you go to apply to jobs, they are more likely expecting that you'll be dividing everything into like smaller components. For example, with React, that has been my experience. When you go to apply to job, they're like, okay, but why everything is not a component? Because basically that's their approach, because that makes sure that when you work as a team, it's easier because you don't have this like, hey, I'm going to build this way and I'm going to build like totally different way. So that way you have more control. If everything is a component, then everything is a component. Hopefully I make myself clear. Yeah, I think we'll call it a day. This was awesome. As always, awesome podcast. Thank you, Paul, for joining. Thank you,
And I was just
everyone
gonna say thank you, John. As I interrupt, I'm really good at it.
Thank you, everyone, for participating, asking questions, listening, re-listening right now later, the recording and everything. We really thank you for your support. We really enjoy this time that we spent together. And yep. And Paul is running a live stream right after this, where he's going to be doing something really cool.
I don't know if it's going to be really cool, but what I was going to say, if all of you want to continue the conversation, in 17 minutes, I'll be going live, talking about building my portfolio, what I've done so far, answering questions around it. You could go to Coding After 30 YouTube channel, which we're going to start in literally 17 minutes. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So for everyone who is just waking up, now it's time to actually wake up, and then you go to see Paul's live stream.
Exactly.
Now it's more manageable. Yeah. Thank you,
thank you
everyone. And we'll see you next week at the same time. Okay,
same
sounds
channel.
Great. Same channel, same time.